Life is sweet. Let it sweep you off your feet.
Hi, this is Allie and Find Your Joy. And well, we have a rather joyful individual with us this morning. I'm very excited to hear a lot about what he does. Glenn Cohen, he is the founder of Center for Neurological Intelligence. I want to learn all about that. He is an author and a neurological life coach, and someone who seems to, I don't know, maybe I'm thinking helps people to find a way to think differently. I'm not sure. Let's find out. Hi, Glenn. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, and thank you so much for having me. And to tie this all together, when I look at what I do, I help people come home to themselves and find their own joy that
Oh,
resides in their heart and soul.
wow.
Because so many times through life experiences, particularly in childhood and adolescence, we metaphorically, fracture our nervous system so we don't feel whole.
Right.
And then we adopt these personalities, these roles, personas, and we get lost. And so much of my journey has been to find my way back home to myself. And I really believe in the bigger picture of what I do, there's so much of the strategies, tools, techniques, the educational aspect of it. But to put in a larger picture is helping people come home to themselves, heal these parts, bring it all together, and find the true, authentic, innate joy that they were born with in their heart and soul.
Wow. So many thoughts. So first of all, that might be my favorite line I have heard in a very long time, helping people to come home to themselves. Because so many people, so many of us have, when you say that line, I think everybody knows exactly what you're talking about. Everyone has known that feeling of wherever they're at, everyone knows the feeling of not. I think in general, humankind these days are homesick, longing for a home that they don't. Where is that home? Where is it? Where is that place? It's not in a building. It's not a house. It's not a. So it's beautiful finding your way home to yourself. That's a powerful statement. So what
Yeah.
does
So
that
it's
look
like
like?
we leave our childhood homes physically, but not neurologically.
Mm,
And so when we open up the door of awareness and really get honest with ourselves, and we're okay with being imperfect and saying, okay, this is about me and my work that I need to do for me. And we go through, it's all written throughout the annals of history. Joseph Campbell, the hero's journey. We go through this journey until we can welcome ourselves back home.
mm.
This is what I experienced. And I watched this movie, and toward the end, it was about a couple, and the guy was just lost in his own childhood neurological wounding and went off and came back to his high school girlfriend that was supposed to get married, and he didn't show up, and 8 years later, blah, blah, blah. But at the end, he finally realizes and does the resolution work, and he shows up. And I mean, I still think of it and moves me. And she looked at him and she goes, "You're not ever leaving here again without me and Billy," who was the daughter that he didn't know he had. And she just looked at him and she put her hands on the side of his face and goes, "Welcome home." And
Oh,
when I saw that the first time, it just blew me open because I was in this process of finding that out for myself. And it's funny how movies can be metaphors for us, and we
Yes.
the right movie or we read the right book or something happens at that exact time we need that just opens it up and go, wow, that's it.
It's so true. And it's interesting how art has a way of doing that. It's like creativity is always,
Huh.
always, always steering us back. It's like this beautiful, however someone, whether someone looks at it, well, there's so many layers to it, whether it's creative or neurological or spiritual or whatever it is. There's always this way of trying to bring us back to where we were born to
No,
be.
actually, not bringing us back to bringing us where we are now that honors our true self of where we are now. I see all these
Ah,
beautiful instruments you have on the wall. Think about, you know, you're going through something in your life and you hear a song that you've heard before, but this time you hear something different.
yes.
But you relate it to where you are, and it alters your neurological pathways, which are all connected to your heart and soul. They're all connected to your chakra system because
Yes.
we're all this energy anyway.
Yes.
Your nervous system is nothing but a highway with 100 trillion roads to it that carries all your energy and information, right? So when we look at it that way, it's like, wow, yeah. There's
So I
not
like that. So not welcome back, because the clarification there is because this is just where we are now. And
welcome back
welcome
home right
back.
now.
Yes. Yeah, okay. I
You've been
understand.
gone for a while. Welcome back home now.
Yes, yes,
I know you've been out in the wilderness for a while.
yes. Yeah.
We can't come back home until we've gone and learned our lessons. It's the
Yeah.
heroes. You know, you got to go through your trials and tribulations and go into the cave and face your greatest fear in order to find your bliss and come back home.
Beautiful. So how does some of that look like when you're working with someone? So you're a neurological life coach, and so I mean, I'm sure there's as many different stories as there are people, but so is there a kind of a plan in place? Like, how does that work?
Yes. So it really depends on whether I'm working with an individual or a couple. Those are two
Oh,
different pathways.
okay.
So when I'm working with a couple, I say, well, in the initial interview, when they're interviewing me to decide whether to hire me, I say, well, I'm working with two I's and a we. And I want to know who my eyes are and who's playing the game before I care about the we. So there's
Ah,
a pathway there. But I'm working with individuals. There are really three areas: the past, the present, the future. In the past, we're looking at identifying the fractured aspects of self, the younger versions that are stuck in implicit memory, which has no concept or time or space, that these little ones will pop up at any time outside of our awareness 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 years later and trigger us. And we think it's about the present moment. Well, maybe 5% of it's the present moment, 95%
right.
is the past. And then we end up acting like a child or a reptile. That's
Right.
when we get hooked and hijacked and shift happens. So there's a beautiful process called the reclaiming process, where we go through these multiple steps using meditative techniques,
Okay.
where we reveal these aspects of self, we resolve whatever is unresolved, and then reclaim it back to wholeness.
Hmm.
In the present, we have all developed autopilot programs that are in the unconscious mind that we picked up and perfected in order to guard, protect some aspect of self.
Okay. Yep.
And so what we need to do then is develop strategies with tools and techniques to identify it, interrupt it, replace it with repetition. So there's a lot of strategies, tools, and techniques. So in my book series, volume 1 is the educational aspect of neurological intelligence, or as I like to say, you have to learn how your system works before you can work on your system. So
Right.
volume 2, what are the strategies, tools, and techniques for how to work on your system? But what people need to understand and realize is not what happens to you. It's not the story of what happened to you. It's what happened within you and how it altered your nervous system, how you made sense of it, the beliefs that you came away, and the emotions that are stuck inside that neurological bundle that metaphorically fractured off the system when you had that experience.
Right.
And that's what needs the attention of the highest aspect of self in order to go and reclaim it, heal it, and bring that aspect and welcome it back home into the present moment, into your heart and soul, where you feel comfortable in your own skin, your mind gets quiet, your body's relaxed, and your soul's at peace, and you acquire neurological freedom.
Mm. Because I mean, it does make sense. So is some of this like NLP? Is that what you're describing? Neuro-linguistic processing? Is that part of the, it's part of, it's, I guess, I mean, it's in everything, I suppose, but it's, when I think of it, you know, when you said it, when something happens, if we could have 3 people in the room and all experience a same event, and it could impact us differently.
Absolutely.
And so so I love that when you're saying that it's not so much about what happened. What I can't remember the exact wording you used. Maybe it's not so much what happened to us or that we were a part of, but what happened inside of us when that thing happened. Because
Exactly.
it makes sense, right? You know, if I'm walking down the street, I have a German Shepherd. And if I was walking down the street and I see my girlfriend, one of my very dearest friends since high school, went to go to, her car had been towed. She went into this is a true story. She went to go pick up her car and was attacked by the dog that was loose in the thing. It was a German Shepherd. Took her a long time to be okay with my dog because she had that fear. So if I see a German Shepherd, I am immediately, my heart is so happy. I'm like, I think that what a smart dog is. That's a loyal dog. That's a kind dog. That's the best dog ever. I'm just so happy. My girlfriend is very nervous. That's an understatement. I mean, we're talking, she had a very serious attack that happened, required stitches and stuff. So it's just even that little thing. When people say, well, I was there and that didn't happen to me, I think it's just not even this, it's just not the same thing. It's like saying a bowl of fruit is all bananas. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
So what that is, how long ago did this incident happen with your friend?
My friend, a long time, probably 30 years ago now, and she's gone on to have dogs of her own and work on to get through it. But yeah, probably 30 years.
What happens is we develop what I call references. So all we are sensory data machines. That's all we
Right.
are. We
Yeah.
are a massive human supercomputer. You know, the only thing that differentiates us is our ectoderm, our skin, our hair. You take all that away, we're all the same.
Right.
100 trillion neural connections, firing, wiring, energy, information. So right now, I'm just sensory data to you. You're hearing me, you're seeing me, you're feeling my energy coming across. That's it, right? So every second of every day, particularly earlier in life, we're referencing something because the unconscious mind only cares about 2 words, safe or danger. That's it, right? So either I call it green empowered, red disempowered. You know, safe, danger, good, bad, fair, not fair, worthy, unworthy. So it separates, depending on the context of the situation, will assign a green or red reference. That single word leads to the assignment of meaning. Everything in life begins with meaning. That comes out of Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. All meaning evokes emotion. So this reference your friend has of a German Shepherd, the unconscious mind has no concept of time or space.
Right.
That reference was danger for her, and for you, it's safe. And it's not so much what happened to her, because here's a moment. It's what happened within her and the assignment of that reference to which activates meaning, danger, which activates her physiology to create a physiological shift. And that explains how humans work.
Right. It's how we've survived. And it's learning how to, it's learning how to shift
Right.
it a bit, right? Because we live in this world where there's constant stimulus of, there's many opportunities for people to engage in feeling afraid or worried, or there's these things. And so this is about a shift of how a thinking shift, an awareness shift. How would you say it if it's
What a great segue. Thank you very much for that. In today's world, in my humble opinion,
Yes.
there's so much sensory data with today's technology that humans are thinking too much. They are doing and not being. Everybody has a story. Everybody's got information.
Yeah.
The internet, Google, AI, it's all just tons of information. It leads people upstairs thinking that left brain of theirs knows everything. And it's so loud. Metaphorically, it's like everybody's upstairs with headphones on, listening to Pearl Jam, and they can't hear when somebody's knocking downstairs, which is their wisdom in a voice and connection to a higher source.
Right.
So, yeah, nobody's paying attention. Nobody's home. So I find that it's such a huge challenge for people to just shut up upstairs. And, that's really just an anchor for people, because you can't shut up because you have 70,000 thoughts a day, but not paying attention to it all. And just coming back to the present moment and managing your system. You're in a world, instead of letting the mind manage you, you're managing your mind.
Instead of your mind managing you, you're managing your mind. Well, it's a
paradigm.
It is, and it's a phrase that when you hear it, you think, well, yeah, but then it's how do we get from where we are right now to the place where we're managing it? So what does that look like?
Well, first I tell people you are not your mind and your mind is not you. And as long as you stay upstairs, how can you come home? Your heart and your soul are not up here.
Right.
They're downstairs. Come on downstairs. Hang out down there a little bit and see how things, what I have all these probably 50 quotes in picture frames all in my office. And one that's been up there for over, 10, 15 years is Wayne Dyer. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Yes.
People will just sit long enough and allow themselves to look at things differently, those things will change. But it's slowing down, quieting, doing the inner work, coming back up, really trying to trust yourself instead of listening to all the stories and the yik-yak upstairs in the chatterbox. I call it the cacophony of commentators.
It's true. Yes, yes.
Endless stories. And it's like, really, is it, are they true, false, or questionable? And we pay so much attention to them, we get lost. And now we're not in the present moment. John Kabat-Zinn, his quote from mindfulness that's on my wall in my office. Mindfulness means paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally.
Mm.
And we're upstairs. We ain't doing that.
No. No, we are not.
No. And so it's all about repetition. We train ourselves very well. We've done patterns from the time, God knows when we were younger to now. And so it creates an identity, and we believe that's who we are. And one of the greatest forces in human nature is to be congruent with an identity. So if you have an identity and your mind has gotten you to believe that you live a life with these guardrails that are only 50 feet wide, well, that's all you know. And it's too uncomfortable to come outside of that. So it's comfortable to stay in, but it's the worst place because you're limiting yourself based off the beliefs inside the guardrail. And so I tell you, come out. You're unlimited. There's no limit to you. You can do anything you want inside your inner world. It's your system.
Right.
Uncomfortable for people to think that way because they're so used to having these guardrails up. And they believe the mind, instead of observing and not engaging it, they are just integrated with it and believe whatever it tells it and believe that they don't have choice when they do.
Right. And it's interesting too, because when we're, I think the way that you describe it to me anyways, how I hear it is, so there's the aspect of, you know, how we're thinking and how we change that and how to shift things, look at what was and how it came. So there's that, but I think that what a lot of people would find really attractive is that you actually talk about the neurology of it all, like the neurological pathways and how that works. Because I think sometimes we think, oh, that's just the way I am, or that's just the way they are. and to remind ourselves that, you know, we are this being of energy and pathways, and part of it, there's a really good science-based reason of how this all works. And once we know it, we can work with it and guide it instead of let it just, oh, well, that's just how it's going to be. I like that.
Yeah. And where you start is the body. The see, when let's just use the metaphor, when we find ourselves inside those very tight guardrails and we hook into a limiting belief and we get triggered, we're going to have a physiological reaction. Most of the time, people don't pay attention to it because they're upstairs and it's blasting up there and they don't pay attention to what's going on downstairs. But that's our early warning alarm signal, trying to wake up our prefrontal cortex, our conscious mind, to go, whoa, what's going on here?
Right.
And you take a breath and you slow down and you widen the gap between the stimulus of the body and the choice we have. And there's only two choices. Either we get reactive and we go down the low road where it's either rigid chaos, or we get responsive, stay flexible, and honor ourselves and whomever with something that is more open, honest, authentic, vulnerable, and real. So it is that and most of the time the gap is a nanosecond because we're on autopilot. We just, boom. Oh, I couldn't help it. That's just the way I am. Oh, okay. That's your choice, because everything is a choice. You just have to believe you have choice. When people believe they don't have choice, they put themselves in a victim story. They believe they're a victim. They have no choice. And so now they can't change, which makes them feel safe. Now the finger is always pointing outside instead of inside.
Right. And you know, I was having a conversation with a friend about this the other day. We were talking about, and I think this goes with what you're saying. So retraining ourselves, right?
Retrain the
I
brain.
think, right, we're giving it some new information and a new pathway and and learning how to do things a different way, so that, and what sparked that in my mind was when you said it happens in a nanosecond and someone says, that's just how I am, I had no choice. And what it made me think of was a few things. Um, a doctor, so a medical doctor, something, when they go into action, when a person, at acute situation happens, right? They're in an emergency room and whatever happens, right? The heart attack or the bleeding or whatever. They just jump into action. That's just how they are. Well, that's because it took years of training to be, that's just how I am. And when I first started driving a stick, I remember when I was, many years ago, learning how to drive a standard car. And I can remember thinking, I'm never going to do this. This is not going to happen. And now you don't even think about it. And so what I think I hear you talking about is when we're retraining ourselves, that's the new way that that's how I do it. I can't help it because I have to retrain myself so that that's my default position. Is that what we're talking about?
Repetition is the mother of learning.
Mm.
The question is, are you mindful of the repetition? And are you repeating a pattern with a strategy that is serving you or causing you to suffer? That's it.
Right.
If it's causing you to suffer, then with loving kindness toward yourself, develop a strategy, gather the tools, and slowly, with patience and perseverance, repetitively interrupt it and replace it until you flip the reference. So now you're unconsciously competent in this new pattern.
Right.
It's like a professional basketball player, it's down to the last minute and it's the playoffs, but they've done this a bazillion times. They're not thinking. They are just procedural memory, muscle movement, implicit, because they've done it. They've trained themselves. There's not much difference. When you started walking and you fell the first time, did you say, nope, I'm not going to do this anymore? Or rode a bike and you fell the first time, did you say, I'm not going to? No, you kept going until you did it. But it just took some time.
Yeah, that's right. It took a little bit of time.
I tell people, it's really fascinating. People will spend so much time, energy, and attention to perfect and become proficient in things external of them instead of their internal world in today's world.
Right.
It's amazing.
Can you give a few examples of that?
Yeah. People will, very determined and disciplined to go to the gym, to make sure they look great to the outside world, to be unbelievable in their job, to be whatever, anything external, their car, their boats, shopping, whatever is outside of them.
Yeah.
How much time and energy and attention do they place on taking care of their inner world to make sure that their strategies and their programming codes are serving them.
Right.
They're honoring themselves and the people they love by showing up in a way to spread that. How many people really focused on the beingness of being here versus the doingness of doing this, that, or the other? Right.
And what you're talking about is so much different than I remember people used to call people, you'd be back in the day when we all first started, those of us who did start looking inside, that we got the name the belly button gazers. But there's, I did anyways. But there's a difference between looking inside and understanding how I function and why I function, and taking steps to actually shift those things. And someone who's just forever thinking about, I don't know, it's not my fault or that whatever. We can go inside in different ways, and one is with intention and one is just to, as my mom would have said, lollygag around.
Yeah, no, we go with an intention for number one, if you need to do some inner work to resolve and heal so you can grow, great. Or just go inside to grow to a higher version. It's like your phone gets updated every year. Why don't you update your internal software at least twice a year, maybe? Right?
That's awesome. Yeah, it's great.
Just update your software. You're running the same software you did 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Yes, that's a very good analogy. That's a very good analogy. And just like my Apple phone, it doesn't change. It just doesn't work with all the other systems. It's not compatible.
And you know what? They will update the phones once, twice a year, major updates, but every so often they're going to send a security update because they find a little bug. And you know what? It's okay if we find a belief system that used to protect us and work for us, that all of a sudden pops up, and we can make a conscious choice that, you know, that really doesn't work for me anymore. I choose not to believe that.
Right.
I tell people all beliefs are real, but not necessarily true.
That's good. Yeah. I tell my kids and my grandkids a very similar thing. Just because I believe it doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah, what you believed yesterday might not be the same as today.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
I
That's
have new
right.
information. It's all right. I have new information.
We're unlimited to be able to look at things differently. It depends on if this serves us and the people we love, and it depends on your focus, your city, your community, the state, the world, whatever your focus is.
Yes.
But as long as it's serving and you're not causing suffering, that's the line.
Right. Wow, I'm always, when I look and I think, oh man, we're just getting started. Glenn, thank you so much.
my gosh,
I
thank
really
you.
appreciate your wisdom and you sharing it with us, sharing it with the world, and I can see that yeah, I love the concept of it, the working system change. I really appreciated that look at it. I really appreciated that very much. So what we'll do is in our show notes, we're going to have ways for people to get in contact with you. They can get your books, they can go to your website, they can contact you, and you will work remotely with them. So it doesn't have to stop here, folks. You can you can carry on.
You got the books. I recorded them. They're on Audible also. Volume 1 and 2 is out. Volume 3 will be out in August. That's for couples.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yes.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this, and I appreciate your time, and it was great. And to our listeners, thanks so much for coming out today. I appreciate you all, and I'm sure you got a lot out of this as I did. Do remember to find your joy. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you found a piece of your joy in this episode, I would love to hear about what came up for you so that we can continue to grow the impact of this show. Thanks again. See you soon. And remember, find your joy.